your name? Don't you play this game? You from another land, got you like it's contraband. Tell me what's your name? Don't you play this game? You from another land, got you like it's contraband.
What's up, guys? Keyshawn here, back at you with another new alternate universe video. Now, this is kind of going to be like a remake of a video that I previously did, but kind of not. Also, I have an announcement to make. This is going to be some changes on my videos and when I'm going to upload. So, on Monday and Tuesday, on Monday and Saturday, I will be making crazy what ifs. So, it's going to be like dark what ifs, or like, crazy, more mature sexual active videos. So it's gonna be like the 18s parts of your favorite anime characters, Deku, Naruto. They're gonna be different what ifs, like what if Naruto was dark side, or what if Deku was dark side. The dark. It's gonna be dark versions of what ifs. So it's gonna be only on Saturday and Monday, give or take, or maybe on Tuesday and Wednesday. I'm still deciding, but that's gonna be the announcement. Also, this is going to be kind of a redo and a better version of this. So this is going to be it's going to be a kind of what if scenario, but it's going to be a better what if scenario because I thought it out more clearly. But this is going to be what if Naruto was a psychopath slash serial killer slash Goku Black slash God. Well, you could say a god, you could say. Now, what kind of god? You're just going to have to find out. Now, without further ado, let's get this started. Now, how we're going to start this off. Pretty much everything happened the same. Naruto pretty much will get the half of the Nine Tails Jinchuriki, and pretty much so forth, so far. Now, this is where pretty much as Naruto is growing up, this is where a bad change of effect. This is where the butterfly effect will kick in, as this is where a slight occur will happen now. Now, pretty much this is where pretty much Naruto will pretty much get attacked by kids. Well, pretty much get attacked, and this is where one of the Amu members will chase after Naruto. Now, this is where Naruto is running away and he gets cut and get injured, and this is where the Amu members was pretty much about to kill Naruto until he trips, and Naruto at the time has a kunai. Well, pretty much carries a kunai with him because he's a scared kid. Pulls it out and telling the Amus to get away from him, or he will have to use this, which pretty much Amu member is laughing until the Amu member accidentally trips and gets stabbed by Naruto's kunai. Now, I know what you're saying. Amu members regularly won't fall and get stabbed or anything. They're just too skilled. But we're just going to say this is a part of the butterfly effect. This is where the Amu member trips and he pretty much get cut by the kunai in the throat, well, in the chest, and pretty much dies there. This is where a couple of ninjas come in and see that Naruto actually kills someone. When Naruto is trying to basically explain, says, no, this is an accident. He basically tripped and he fell, which this is where the ninjas are not having it. Pretty much they beat the shit out of Naruto and pretty much takes him and put him in the jail cell. This is where Hiruzen hears about it, and Danzo pretty much saying to Hiruzen that, you see, I told you the Nine Tails is taking over, which pretty much Danzo is telling Hiruzen that he will take over. He will have Naruto, which he will discipline him, train him, and make sure he will, not do this again, which pretty much Hiruzen says no, that's not going to happen, which pretty much Danzo says that I guess we're going to have to leave him there until he grows a bit older, which Hiruzen has no other option, pretty much leaves Naruto there in that holding cell we're just going to say for a good 2 years, you could say. Now, this is where we're going to pretty much go back to Naruto before the 2 years happen. This is where Naruto's in the holding cell, pretty much crying and stuff. And this is where Danzo is going to be pretty much torturing Naruto to pretty much have Naruto to ask for him to go out, and Hiruzen will have no choice to have Danzo have him. So Danzo's pretty much going to have Naruto get tortured a lot. So this is where Naruto is pretty much getting tortured a lot over the months and days. And as he's getting tortured and getting hardly getting food and stuff, and they're starving him and all that shit. This is where Naruto pretty much is in the cell crying and saying, why is this happening to him? Until a figure comes up, and he's pretty much in the shower, in the shadow, and talking to Naruto, saying, "Hey kid, you want to have power? You want to be strong enough to basically have no one ever do this to you again? Do you want to become a god and have such power?" Which this is where Naruto's asking who's talking. Which this is where Naruto eyes has been pretty much cut out. Well, pretty much been one of his both his eyes has been injured because they have pretty much hurt his eyes, so he can't see anything, but he can only hear. And this is where pretty much the person is, well, this person, which this is the person right here, pretty much talking to Naruto and saying, yeah, which Naruto's asks again, who is he? Which pretty much this is where the person is talking to him and saying, well, I can't really tell you who I am, but I guess you can call me psychopath for short. Which pretty much Naruto is saying psychopath. Which this is where you could say psychopath is talking to Naruto. Pretty much he begins to comfort Naruto and Naruto is pretty much scared at this point. But he's talking. Well, pretty much Naruto's talking to psychopath. This is where one of the jail cellars hears Naruto talking to someone, and pretty much he opens up the cell and kicks Naruto in the face and stomps on him down, saying, "Who the hell are you talking to, you damn weirdo? You damn nine-tailed fox," and pretty much just absolutely hurting him. This is where he breaks one of Naruto's arms and tells him the next time he hears him talk again, he's pretty much going to make sure his other arm is broken and he leaves the jail cell. Now, this is where Naruto is pretty much crying extra hard, and pretty much Psychopath is coming again and saying, "I'm sorry that happened to you, kid, but I still have that offer for you. Will you like to become a god?" Which pretty much Naruto is not saying anything and keep quiet, which Psychopath is laughing, saying, Come on, he's not gonna come back and do it again. Anyways, if he breaks your arm, he's gonna be getting executed." Which this is where Naruto begins to start talking to him and saying, "What kind of power?" Which this is where Psychopath is smiling, saying, "Well, of course, a lot of power." Which this is where Naruto says, "Okay." Which this is where Naruto begins to start about the set, but he keeps quiet and says to leave him alone. Which Psychopath smiles and says, "All right," and pretty much gets out of there. Now we're just gonna do about a couple more months, and we're going to do a couple more months, and this is where Naruto's getting tortured again. Pretty much this is where they are pretty much breaking his fingers one by one, and just absolutely doing the worst to him. This is where Danzo is talking, and Naruto's unconscious right now after getting tortured, and Danzo's pretty much saying, "So how's the torture going?" Which Naruto don't know who voices that because, like I said, they always injure his eyes. Well, his eyes is injured, so he can't see anything anymore. So he's pretty much just can hear. But pretty much this is where the Danzo was talking to the torturers, and the torturers pretty much saying nothing much. This kid has nearly pissed himself 5 times. Pretty funny, right? Which Danzo is pretty much saying, I don't care for that. I'm asking, will he be willing to talk to Aruzen to pretty much actually get out of here?" Which this is where Naruto is listening a little bit, but still unconscious. And this is where the torturer is saying, "Just give us some more time, and this kid's going to be pretty much too traumatized enough to do anything, but only come to you." Which Naruto's saying, "Good." And he pretty much walks out of there. Now, this is where the torturers torture him again, and this is where Hiruzen looks at Naruto, and Naruto's arm is pretty much bandaged up, and pretty much Naruto's leg is broken, and Naruto's pretty much bandaged up. He can't see anything, which this is where Hiruzen asking Naruto, does he need to get out, and he promised him, which Naruto doesn't say anything. It tells him to leave him the fuck alone. Leave him alone. Get the hell away from him. Which Naruto already knows what's happening. So we're gonna do about a year now, and this is where Naruto is pretty much completely silent. You could say silent and crazy now. He begins to start frenzy, talking to himself. Just absolutely crazy. That's it. Pretty much a nut job. This is where one time a jailer hears Naruto's talking, and this is where Naruto's talking to Psychopath again, and Naruto's pretty much having a conversation with him, which this is where one of the jailers comes inside and says, I told you about talking to yourself, kid, which pretty much he's coming in to hurt Naruto. Until Naruto crafts a weapon and begins to start charging at the jailer and pretty much stabs the jailer in the neck. This is where he begins to rapidly, gruesomely cut the jailer up and cut his throat, begins to start stabbing his eyes out, and just begins to start ripping open his chest and ripping out his chest cavity and just ripping out everything. This is where Naruto begins to start licks the blood and smiling, and he still can't see anything. He begins to walk outside. Now, this is where, as he's walking outside, he begins to feel the rain, and pretty much he begins to touch the rain and taste the water and stuff, and begins to start smiling and laughing. This is where Hinata finally has the chance to see Naruto at that time, and she pretty much sees that Naruto's outside and he's covered in blood, and the blood is draining off of him. This is where she begins to make a soft whisper, which Naruto hears someone, and he says, "Who's there?" Which pretty much this is Naruto still. He looks like a mess, so pretty much she's saying, "Naruto, is that you?" Which Naruto can recognize the voice a little bit and says, Hinata, which this is where she walks up to Naruto and touches Naruto's face. Well, yeah, touches Naruto's face. And Naruto begins to start a little bit crying, showing his little bit still left of humanity. And he begins to put his head close to her head and begins to, feel like actually another human being who actually, like, is not a threat or danger to him. Which, this is where one of the Abo ninjas sees Naruto, and they've been given special vision to watch over Naruto. And those are kunai, those two kunais at his back, which Naruto falls to the ground. Again, this is where one of the other jailers comes in and begins to start absolutely beating the shit out of Naruto, which Naruto can't do anything. And Hinata's screaming out, crying, saying, "Stop hurting him. He, what are y'all doing?" Which pretty much this is where Naruto gets beat absolutely almost to death. And this is where they pretty much grab Naruto and throw him back into the jail cell, which Naruto's barely breathing. Now, after that, Naruto is not being fed or anything, and Naruto's pretty much, you could say, losing life as you speak. But since he has the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, the Nine-Tails is pretty much feeding Naruto's chakra, so he's pretty much keeping Naruto alive as life support. But Naruto's pretty much just, he can't do anything. He's pretty much out. He's too broken up. He's absolutely given up. But this is where Psycho appears, and this is where Naruto hears Psycho, and Psycho pretty much saying, "So, will you accept my offer? Will you throw away your humanity and become a god? Will you become higher of these low worms, these presents before you?" Which Naruto, at this point, just doesn't want to be in this jail cell anymore. It begins to say, "I accept," which pretty much Psycho smiles and says, "Alright, this might hurt a little," which Naruto's saying, "What do you mean?" And pretty much this is where Psycho touches Naruto's eyes, well, cover his hand on Naruto's eyes, and begins to start giving Naruto the full power. And Naruto begins to start screaming in agonizing pain. And this is where Naruto begins to feel the whole power go course through him, and his body begins to transform and just absolutely in pain and all that. Which, as that's happening, this is like the second year now. So this is where Naruto's pretty much is, getting the power. Now, second year now. This is where Naruto is different now, and he's pretty much, his body is in a whole curse, like burnt crystal. They bandaged him up, but yeah, bandaged him up because when they found Naruto getting the full power, he's pretty much a burnt crystal now, and they bandaged him up. So pretty much he's still in the jail cell, just laying there. But they don't know that Naruto pretty much got the full power and stuff. But this is where the second year passed, and Naruto's much older now. We're gonna make him 18. So nothing haven't really started yet, but yeah, pretty well. Mm, not 14. 14, but yeah, nothing really have started. Like the massacre happened and stuff, but pretty much, yeah, Naruto's just in the cell. But pretty much, this is where Naruto's bandaged up and his whole face and stuff is covered up in. Pretty much, this is where the torturers takes Naruto and trapped him up in the torture thing. And this is where Naruto is still in his full, not completely recovered yet. But this is where the jailers are about to say, should we do that? Which, yeah, they begin to start smiling and they're about to break Naruto's legs until Naruto pretty much wakes up and begins to grab both of their heads and pretty much rip their heads apart. Well, yeah, rip their heads apart, and he begins to have the blood cover on his bandages. Now, this is where Naruto pretty much takes off the bandages, and he begins his hair. His hair is different. He has a cut on his nose. His eyes, both his eyes, one is pretty much dark red, and the other one's like dark crimson red, and the other one's pretty much uh yeah, the other one's dark crimson red, while the other one is blue crimson, and he's pretty much has a cut on his nose, and his hair is a little bit much longer than usual, and a little bit like you could say messy, but yeah, and he pretty much and his body is pretty much different now as he has muscles. He looks at his nails. His nails is black, and pretty much yeah. This is where Naruto pretty much. This is where Naruto pretty much licks the blood off his hand, and pretty much he begins to look at the two jailers, and he begins to smile a little bit, smiles a little bit, and he begins to walk out there. Now, as he walks out of there, this is where Hiruzen is regularly supposed to check the torturers and see how Naruto's doing. But pretty much Naruto is gone, and the two jailers are dead. Which this is where Hiruzen calls out his Amus to tell him to go after Naruto. This is where Naruto is going. Before he leaves, he pretty much goes to Hinata's place, and Hinata's pretty much in her room, crying because that she pretty much haven't seen Naruto, and like I said, she likes Naruto, has a crush on him. This is where Naruto appears in front of Hinata, and pretty much he tells her to he thanks her for basically coming to see him when she had the chance, and he's sneaky, which Hinata begins to cry and hugs Naruto and asks where he's going to go, which Naruto pretty much saying that he's not going to stay in this godforsaken village, and he pretty much gives her a kiss and give her a kiss on the lips and pretty much just leaves. Now, as he leaves and disappears, this is where the Amu members begins to chase after Naruto, and Naruto is pretty much long gone, which he pretty much teleports somewhere, not getting used to his power yet, but he teleports somewhere. He pretty much falls down to the ground. Now, this is where Naruto is pretty much a little bit exhausted because his body's not yet fully recovered, but it is like you could say half recovered. But this is where he's pretty much going, and this is where he pretty much ended up into the place where samurais are at, you could say. Now, this is where Naruto pretty much passes out, and it pretty much is just knocked out on the ground. Now, this is where when a female mother sees Naruto, and pretty much she tells her two daughters to help him out, and pretty much they take him to the place. Now, pretty much Naruto wakes up at a bed, which he haven't felt for a while, and he's looking around until the mother comes in and says, "Oh, you're awake." Which Naruto looks at both of them, and he pretty much is like a little bit frightened, a little bit. I mean, a little bit hesitant, as he doesn't know what their true motive is. But he can see like auras and souls and see what they motive. So he pretty much can see that pretty much she's not dangerous or anything, and he pretty much lets his guard down. It pretty much says, "Did you the one who bring me here?" Which she says, "Oh yes, he looked at like he was injured a little bit, which Naruto begins to says, yeah, he had a pretty much long day, which this is where she says, oh, I'm sorry to hear that, which Naruto's saying, yeah, which this is where she pretty much tells him to he can he can go take a shower and stuff, and he can come at the table and come eat with them and tell her what's his situation, which pretty much Naruto is saying okay, and he pretty much goes in the shower and pretty much gets and starts to get dressed in clothing that they provide him. Now this is where Naruto pretty much heads out and begins to start sitting with them and eating, and the two girls begins to start asking Naruto's question, and one girl say that he looks handsome, looks cute, which the other one's trying to say that what village what village does he come from, because they saw his headband, which pretty much this is where Naruto says, "Oh, the Leaf Village? Nah, I don't come from there. That was given to me by a friend." Which Naruto's basically just lying. But this is where one of them asks him the question like, "Who's his mom and dad?" Which pretty much Naruto says that he doesn't have a mom and dad. He's basically an orphan. Which the other girl says sorry about that. Which the mother says, "All right, enough questions." Which this is where Naruto is pretty much eating with them, and he begins to smile, saying that he hadn't really had contact with people for over 2 years. Which this is where this is where they feel bad for him, and the mother starts hugging Naruto, saying that you poor child. Which Naruto feels the comfort and feels the comfort from a mom he never had, and begins to start a little bit crying, but he stops the little bit tears, and he pretty much thanks them. And she pretty much says that if he has no place to stay, he can stay here over the night. And pretty much he thanks them, and they all begins to start going to sleep. Now, this is where Naruto begins to hear noises because he has super hearing, great hearing now, super hearing and stuff, and he can also see through the future and stuff. So he can see through the future, and he's still learning his power. But this is where he pretty much heads out, and the Abu members are pretty much saying that they thought they had to kill those people to pretty much get to him. Which this is where Naruto pretty much says that he's going to kill every single last one of them if they touch them people. They didn't do nothing wrong. Which one of the Abu members says, "Oh yeah, let's see you try, kid." Which the Abu member charged at Naruto. This is where Naruto pretty much begins to smile, and he pretty much turned his hand into a keyblade and sliced one of the Abu members in half, splitting them into two. And this is where the other Abu member is shocked that Naruto can do that. Which this is where Naruto begins to clench his fist, and he begins to turn his hair into, you could say, Super Saiyan Rose. So, yeah, and begins to say, "You mortals, I'm tired of y'all mortals messing with me. I have control over my life now, and y'all won't have no choice but to die now." Which pretty much, this is where one of the Abu members sees one of the other Abu members work together to try and stop Naruto. This is where Naruto turns his Keyblade into a scythe, showing that he has 100% key control, and pretty much well, not slice. He pretty much charged his scythe with chakra too, so he pretty much has 100% pure control over chakra and key control. So his chakra control is just outright dangerous. So this is where Naruto pretty much smacks one of them in the face with his hand, sending them flying to a tree, breaking the person's back, pretty much dislocating the spine. And this is where the other one charges at Naruto till Naruto slices that person in the head. Slices the person in half with the scythe. It pretty much tells him tells that person tells that person to stay down, which pretty much that person is bleeding out and dying. This is where Naruto pretty much is keeping them alive with his power. So as that person's half, he's pretty much in half, but he can't. He's still alive, and he's wondering why he's not dying. Which Naruto's pretty much saying that he's keeping them alive so he can interrogate them until he lets them die. So this is where he walks to the person who he dislocated the spine, and he begins to stab her in the thigh, and she begins to start screaming. Which Naruto's like made a sound bubble so no one can hear them. and she begins to start screaming agonizing pain, which Naruto begins to twist the knife, the keyblade knife in her, which it's like much worse, and she begins to start screaming. This is where Naruto chops off one of her legs, and she screams out in agonizing pain, and Naruto punches her in the face and tells and Axe begins interrogating her and asks her who sent them after him, and begins to start torturing her more, which she begins to start, spilling out the beans and everything, which Naruto gets up and says, "Okay." Now this is where Naruto is covered with blood, and she's asking for death, please. Which Naruto pretty much says, "Oh no, I won't give you death yet." Which he chops off the other leg, which she begins to start screaming in agonizing pain, and Naruto begins to start smiling about it, and he walks to the other guy who's split in half, and he pretty much crouched down to the guy saying, "All right, now it's your turn." Which the guy pretty much saying the same thing, but begins to start saying that the person who sent us after him was Danza, which this is where Naruto says, "Oh, so he was the guy. Okay, erase." Which this is where Naruto snaps his finger and pretty much erased everybody part and trace of them. And this is where he pretty much is heading back in the house, and he pretty much goes into bed and goes to sleep. Which the mom wasn't looking or anything, but she noticed that Naruto was gone. Now the next day, this is where Naruto pretty much wakes back up, and they're pretty much telling Naruto good morning, which Naruto says morning, and he begins to start getting up, and he begins to start helping around the house. Start helping around the house and stuff, and pretty much start helping them with the laundry and stuff. And this is where Naruto asks the mother where's the father, which she pretty much sadly tells Naruto that he passed away. He was a samurai, which he was in a war, which uh, he died in. Which Naruto says he's sorry for her loss. But pretty much she shows him a picture of him, and Naruto looks at it and feels bad. And out not knowingly, he accidentally brings him back to life. Now this is where pretty much as he's brought back to life, this is where the guy who died in the war pretty much starts coming out the grave, and he's like in his prime. So pretty much he's looking around saying, "How am I still alive?" Which this is where he starts heading to his house, and Naruto pretty much walks out, start talking to her, and as he's walking out, this is where the guy pretty much says, "Honey," which this is where the wife begins to start crying and saying, "Is that you?" Which he pretty much runs, and she runs to him and start hugging each other. Now, as that's happening, this is where she says that they buried him and pretty much all that, which he's pretty much saying that he was in the afterlife and he doesn't know how he came back. Which Naruto is happy that they've been reunited back, but this is where he also starts to think that maybe he had something to do with it. And this is where Naruto introduces himself to the guy and the father, which the father. Yeah, but this is where pretty much Naruto think feel like it was him, but he starts to say that he has to test out more of his power, and pretty much yeah. But this is where Naruto introduces himself to the guy and and the father pretty much says nice to meet him, and pretty much this is where the daughter comes in and looks at their dad, which they begin to start crying, and they runs to him and they start talking to him. Now later later the day, this is where Naruto goes with the sisters and starts going grocery shopping or shopping for food, which this is where they start talking to Naruto and basically explain to him, well, basically start talking to him and stuff, and having a fun conversation and stuff. This is where one of the you could say mercenaries, or like have at the bar, at the market, begins to start looking at one of the girls, and this is where one of them start checking her out and begins to start blocking their path. And this is where the mercenary is saying, it's been a while since I seen you, which pretty much this is where she's saying that, yeah, it's been a while, which I don't care, which pretty much this is where the mercenary begins to get annoyed and says, how dare you try to talk to me like that, and try to hit her until Naruto grabs his arm and pretty much just breaks it, which he's screaming out, saying my arm, which this is where the two other mercenaries pull out their blades and begins to says that they're gonna kill him for that and charge at him. This is where the girls are telling Naruto to run until Naruto starts walking forward to them, and he pretty much just stands there and tells them to fall, which both of them start falling on their knees, which they can't get up, which pretty much this is where Naruto looks at both of them and says, should I kill y'all or should I let y'all go? Which the two mercenaries are saying, what? Which this is where Naruto says it again, don't make me repeat myself. Should I kill you or should I let you go? Which this is where one of the mercenaries begins to try to say to let them go, which Naruto says, okay, I'll let y'all go, but it's gonna cost y'all. Which pretty much this is where Naruto take away the mercenaries' weapons and pretty much tells them to go off. Which this is where Naruto grabs their weapons and pretty much just merge the weapon together and pretty much turns the weapons into two bracelets, which he gives the two bracelets to the sisters. Which this is where the sisters likes the bracelets and pretty much thanks Naruto, which Naruto says it's no problem, and they pretty much gets the food and stuff and head back home. Now after that, this is where Naruto pretty much is having a dinner with them, and pretty much this is where they're all happy and stuff and glad that the father's alive. And Naruto's pretty much enjoying the meal, but this is where he looks at the family and he begins to be sad because he knows that he has to leave because they're going to be in danger constantly because of him. And he pretty much thanks them for the meal, and they pretty much all say goodnight to each other and they start going to sleep. This is where Naruto pretty much gets up and he begins to start getting his stuff and start leaving. As he's walking away, this is where the mother says, where does he think he's going? Which Naruto pretty much says that he's gonna have to go. They're in danger if they're with him. Which this is where the mother says that whatever it is, it's perfectly fine. They can handle it. Which the father comes in right behind. Which Naruto tells them that how much that he treats them as family, but he has to go. And he pretty much just teleports away without saying no trace. Now, this is where Naruto pretty much teleports again, and he pretty much is close by some other area, which he doesn't know about, which he pretty much says that he has to practice on his teleporting abilities. And as he's teleporting, well, as he's pretty much there, he looks around and he pretty much sees that he's at the Cloud Village, Hidden Cloud Village, and he pretty much goes in, which two of the guards are saying Hope who's there, which pretty much this is where Naruto remembered that one of the guards was talking about Chinchurikis and talking about that if the Chinchurikis or a Chinchuriki can get in if he was betraying a village that he was originally in, he can go in another village and they will let him in and treat him with highest respect. Some villages. So he heard that one of the villages is the Cloud. So this is where Naruto says that he's Naruto Uzumaki, and he's pretty much the Nine-Tailed Chinchuriki, which this is where one of the guards told Naruto to hold there, which pretty much this is where the Hokage, the Raikage comes in, and pretty much this is where the two-tailed Chinchuriki. So we're gonna do it before all the Chinchurikis got killed and stuff. So the two-tailed Chinchuriki is still alive, but pretty much this is where the two-tailed Chinchuriki is there, and she pretty much sees Naruto, which Naruto looks at her, and they make a certain unique eye lock with each other. But this is where the Raikage pretty much introduced Naruto in and lets him in, which Naruto asks him that can he get some protection, and also can he live here and be a part of the Cloud Village, which the Raikage pretty much agrees and says yes, of course he's welcome in, which Naruto says that he will put his dedication to this village and put his loyalty to this village, which Raikage says okay, and Naruto pretty much is now part of the Cloud Village. This is where Naruto pretty much be given a home up top, and he pretty much goes into the home and lays in the bed, pretty much thinking to himself that he finally is free from that hellhole village. Which this is where the Raikage knocks on his door and says that he has a mission for him, and asks him what he would like to hear it. Which Naruto says yeah, And this is pretty much part 1 of what if Naruto was a god slash Goku Black slash psychopath. If you like, get this up to 10 likes and I'll do another part video. But I'm Tishan Chia. Thanks for watching and peace out.
It looks like you lost another one.